To understand how we arrived at this point, we have to look back to 1991. When the Soviet Union dissolved, Ukraine emerged as an independent nation, taking with it a massive population of roughly 52 million people. But they inherited something else, too. Overnight, Ukraine became the world's third largest nuclear power. They held around 1,900 strategic nuclear warheads, an arsenal larger than those of the UK, France, and China combined. 3 decades later, that same heavily armed, newly independent state would find itself fighting for its survival against Europe's largest invasion since World War II. The shift began in 1994. In an effort to secure international standing and promote non-proliferation, Ukraine signed the Budapest Memorandum, agreeing to give up its entire nuclear deterrent. They dismantled those 1,900 warheads in exchange for a specific promise. Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom signed a formal agreement to permanently respect Ukraine's sovereignty and existing borders. By surrendering its ultimate defensive weapon, Ukraine became a non-nuclear buffer state, positioned directly between a powerful Western alliance and a Russia determined to maintain its regional influence. This map shows the expanding borders of NATO following the Cold War. Between 1999 and 2020, 14 countries joined the military alliance, many of them former Soviet or Eastern Bloc states. Moscow interpreted this steady expansion as a military alliance consolidating power and pressing directly against Russian borders. If Ukraine were to join NATO, the geography presents a stark reality for Russia. Western military forces and infrastructure could be permanently positioned just 500 kilometers from Moscow. Russian leadership concluded that a Western-aligned Ukraine was an intolerable security risk. In 2014, the political tension broke when the Ukrainian government abruptly rejected a trade agreement with the European Union in favor of closer ties with Moscow. Mass protests erupted in the capital, Kyiv. The public pressure eventually triggered a government collapse. The pro-Russian president fled the country, and a new, explicitly pro-Western leadership took control. The Russian response was immediate. Within weeks, Russian forces covertly entered the Crimean Peninsula and officially annexed the territory. Crimea is a highly strategic landmass. It provides vital warm water access to the Black Sea and serves as the permanent home base for Russia's Black Sea Fleet. While Crimea was taken rapidly, a brutal conflict simultaneously broke out in the eastern Donbas region as pro-Russian separatists declared independence. Between 2014 and 2021, fighting in these trenches killed over 14,000 people. The diplomatic agreements of the 1990s were effectively dead. The struggle for influence had fully transitioned into an active war for territorial control. A fragile ceasefire held for years, punctuated by sporadic violence. Then, in February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This map shows the initial assault routes. Over 150,000 Russian troops pushed across the border from the north, east, and south, converging rapidly toward Kyiv. The operation was anticipated to be a rapid takeover of the capital. Instead, Russian armor met fierce, entrenched military resistance, and the advance stalled. The localized fighting in the east immediately expanded into an absolute fight for national survival, stretching across a sprawling 1,000-kilometer front line. The domestic destruction has been staggering. Tens of thousands of civilians have been killed, entire cities leveled by artillery fire, and the Ukrainian economy contracted by roughly 30%. In response, Western nations enacted rigorous economic sanctions against Russia, forcing a massive rewiring of global energy markets as European countries raced to cut off Russian oil and gas imports. Simultaneously, a coalition of allies mobilized to sustain the Ukrainian defense, supplying intelligence, heavy armor, and over $150 billion in cumulative military and financial aid. The conflict has evolved into a struggle over history and the future of global order, shattering the post-Cold War illusion of European peace and redrawing alliances for decades to come.